Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay, shall we start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is it visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then in the previous unit, we have discussed already about the higher education and the policy perspectives. And today we will talk about how the development of higher education occur and what is all about the 5-year plan. Okay, so our point of discussion today is what is educational planning and what is 5-year plan. What are the 5-year plans in India and what is the development process of higher education? These are the main headings on which we will discuss today. As we know that education is an instrument of change and education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. This was said by your Nelson Mandela. So in education, what happened? We have to plan properly about the education. Otherwise, it will not be fruitful. The goal of the nation cannot be achieved if education will not properly be used as an instrument. That's why we are dealing today with educational planning. Okay, so educational planning, as we all know that planning is a what is planning? Planning is a systematic and organized way of doing work. So similarly, in educational planning, we can say that in generic sense is the application of rational and systematic analysis to the process of educational development with the aim of making education more effective and efficient in responding to the needs and goals of its students and society. So we have to when we are thinking of the educational planning, then we have to think rationally, not haphazardly. We have to make education more effective and efficient so that we can meet the needs and goals of its students and society. We are education is here to meet the need of the society. That's why we have to plan efficiently and effectively. So in this slide, educational planning is ideologically neutral. There is no biasness in the planning. If biasness will be there, then it will not be an effective plan, and its methodologies are sufficiently flexible and adaptable to fit situations that differ widely in ideology, level of development, and governmental form. Its basic logic, concept, and principles are universally applicable, but The practical methods for applying them may range from crude to simple to highly sophisticated depending on the circumstances. So, it is therefore wrong to conceive of educational planning as offering a rigid monolithic formula that must be imposed uniformly on all situations. It means that when you are going for a educational plan, then you should be neutral in your ideology. Otherwise, if biasness will be there, then it will not be fruitful. And once you are making the plan, that means it is a flexible one. You have to keep in mind that it is a flexible one and it is adaptable to the need of the society, but it there should not be any rigidity in the plan. So, according to circumstances, different types of planning may be there, and it may be the simple planning. It may range from the simple to highly sophisticated planning may also be there. That means some complicated or long term plan is the sophisticated planning. And it is equally wrong to conceive of educational planning as being exclusively concerned with quantitative expansion of education, with making things bigger but not different. It means that planning always aims at development of or expansion of the qualitative as well as quantitative aspect of education. But if we will perceive it in that it is only the quantitative expansion of education, then it will not be fruitful or effective. We are, for example, you can take the universalization of elementary education. Then it is directly indicating to the somewhere to the quantity. All will come and learn. All have to learn. So then it is the quantitative aspect. So planning should always include the quantitative expansion as well as the qualitative expansion of education. So this misconception arises because that is how educational planning has so often been used, but it is not an inherent limitation. It arises also because planning makes extensive use of statistics, but it should be remembered that a statistic is merely the shadow of a fact, and the fact may just as well be qualitative as well as quantitative. What I have told that. So, this is a misconception if you perceive it as a quantitative expansion of education. So, we have to understand planning, educational planning, as a qualitative process as well as a quantitative process. So when we are planning something, then we have to keep in mind that we have to grow qualitatively as well as quantitatively, not that only quantitatively. Then next come the planning is a continuous process. Educational planning deals with the future, drawing enlightenment from the past. It is the springboard for future decisions and actions, but it is more than a mere blueprint. So it is something sophisticated and a complicated process, you can say, planning. So if you have a vision of the future and you have the learning from the past, then only you are able to make the planning. And planning is a continuous process. It is concerned not only with where to go, but with how to get there and by what based route you have to get there. So you have to focus on the three things: where to go, how to go, and not only how to go but the best route to go. So you should focus the all the routes with which we can reach at our destination, but we have to choose the best one. So its work does not cease when a plan gets on paper and has own approval. When a plan is approved, it does not mean that work has stopped. I have planned something, but it is not like that. So, planning to be effective must be concerned with its own implementation, with progress made or not made. That in the planning that should be reflected, whether it is in progress is happening or not, that also need to be stressed in the planning process, so that you can know that the planning is effective or not, with and with unforeseen obstacles that arise and with how to overcome them. That is also part of the educational planning, not merely that you plan something on pen and paper and implement it and or ordered for the implementation, and you are not tracing the progress, whether the progress is made or not made. You are not making your research on the process, whether the process part is good or not, whether there is any obstacle or not, any you are finding out the ways to overcome them or not. All these things are included under planning. Plans are not made to be carved in stone but to be changed and adapted as the occasion warrants. As plans for one period move into action, planning for the next must be underway, nourished by feedback from the first. Okay, so understand here that this is a continuous process, and how it is a step by step process. You have to be with your plan, so because it is a continuous process. When you are doing the plan, that means you have to get ready with your plan for the implementation part, for the feedback part, and plan some strategies to overcome the obstacles if there will be obstacle in your way while in the implementation stage. So, before if we are going to talk about the educational planning, in everything we have to go for the history first. So, here also, as we are going to be concerned with the educational planning, here also we have to put a light on the ancestry of educational planning. What is the ancestry, from where it originated and how it worked? Then we will. So another thing is there, we have to first gain the experience from the past. So educational planning can claim an unbroken ancestry running back to ancient times. Plato, in his Republic, offered an education plan to serve the leadership needs and political purposes of Athens. Similarly, China during the Han Dynasty and Peru of the Incas planned their education to fit their particular public purpose. The most important function of educational planning in linking a society's educational system to its goal, whatever these goals may be. So from here we can see the from the ancestry of educational planning. If we will go back to Plato, then we can see that always whatever the society, what type of society it may be, but the society is always the educational goal is always linked to the society. What the society need, that is fulfilled through the education system. So the goal, there should be a linkage, or when you are going to a plan, then first link the goal of the society with the education system. The typical kind of educational planning that went on in most places prior to the Second World War and for many generations before had these four key features. And these features were it was short range in outlook, extending only to the next budget year, except when facilities had to be built or a major new program added, in which case the planning horizon moved forward a bit further. So, in the previous, after Second World War, there were short range planning. They have the short outlook for a year. Take for example, for a one budget year they were planning. But on this basis, if we will come to the today's part, then we are always planning prospective plan, a annual plan and a prospective plan. So it was fragmentary in its coverage. At that time, it was fragmentary in its coverage of the educational system. The parts of the system were planned independently of one another. That is also one, you can say that is maybe a drawback. So it is fragmentary. When you are planning something, then you have to look as a whole, the thing as a whole. Otherwise, you will develop separately. If you will develop a plan separately for one fragment and another fragment like this, then it may not work. So it was, at that time it was fragmentary, and the parts of the system were planned independently of one another. That means they were not linked to one another, or there were no collaboration among the different fragments. And it was non-integrated in the sense that educational institutions were planned autonomously without explicit ties to the evolving needs and trends of the society and economic at large. And it was a non dynamic kind of planning which assumed an essentially static educational model that would retain its main feature intact year and year out. So, these were the four key features of planning which were prior to the Second World War and many generations before, you can say. So, these were the components or the key features of the planning. But as we discussed, due to fragmentation or due to a static nature of planning, it is not going to work properly, or you can say it will not lead to any development also, or a less development. So a new kind of planning became necessary. And in industrialized nations, what happened? The industrialized nations have passed through three educational phases from 1945 to 1970, and now find themselves in a perplexing fourth phase. They have different phases like the reconstruction phase, manpower shortage phase, then rampant expansion phase, and innovation phase. So each yielded a new crop of planning problem. And when we will move to another aspect of planning, that is, you can say that is in developing countries. So what should be the techniques of educational planning? So it has been said that there are five approaches to educational planning. So the main approaches and techniques of relating educational planning to development planning, which are in use or recommended by various authorities, are set out as below. So these are the social demand approach. The first approach is the social demand approach, and this approach takes educational need This approach takes educational needs in terms of current demand for education at the different levels and projects them on the basis of population increase, age distribution, long term national or social goals, and on the basis of what is known about state and consumer preference for education. That means the social demand approach clearly indicates towards the social planning will be on the basis of social demand. When the population is increasing, accordingly we have to plan for the demand of the society. As age distribution, on the basis of age distribution, long term national goal, you have to plan on the basis of need of the society. That is called a social demand approach. Similarly, among such goals and preferences are universal literacy, universal compulsory primary education, and cultural objectives. The stress is upon education as social infrastructure for development purpose and as an end in itself. The financial implication of these targets are then considered. So some of the problems or goals of the society are universal literacy. It may be universal compulsory primary education, or it may be to promote cultural objective, or it may be to enhance the infrastructure. So these are the common demand of the time, demand need of the hour. So at that time social demand approach is followed for educational planning. And also in social demand approach we can include these things like the usual result is that the funds required for the educational expansion are found to be larger than those available either to launch or to sustain it on the basis of projections of national income and revenue. A compromise is struck, and what is deemed to be a feasible plan emerges, cut down to the funds expected to be available. And this is the traditional approach and may work satisfactorily in high income countries, although even these concern our flagging rates of growth and ever increasing competition in export market is leading to increased emphasis on the contribution of education to technological progress and productive efficiency. So when society demand and education planning will supply, through planning education will supply these things, then the technological progress and productive efficiency will increase. But it is said that it is the ancient time or traditional type of planning. Then next is your next type, next approach or next technique is the manpower requirement planning approach. This approach is based on the fact that the main link of education with economic development is through the knowledge and skills it produces in the labor force. To the extent that the educational system produces qualified people in the right numbers and places, the major part of economic and social contribution of educational planning is achieved, provided that in so doing the educational system has not consumed so great a proportion of resources as to set back the development plan itself. And various methods exist of estimating future manpower requirements and the demand they will make on the education system. So this is the main aim objective of the manpower requirement approach. We have to develop
मैम
thorough
किसे देखा
knowledge and
जाओनी
skills. Hello, ଦେଖାଯାଉନି?
ना मैम
ମାନେ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ଦେଖାଯାଉନି?
मैं एबे देखा होला
Okay, now visible? Is it visible now?
यस मैम
Okay, okay. Okay, then manpower requirement. This is called a manpower requirement approach, or this is the technique which include or target at the manpower through development of knowledge and skill in the labor force. So in the labor force we need the manpower. So that's why it is called as manpower requirement approach. Secondly, the educational component of different occupations changes with technological progress and the rise of educational standards. A further limitation on the manpower approach is that it leaves out of account provision for education as a consumer's good, and it makes no provision for the social minimum. So it is tempting to believe that these objectives might be obtained as byproduct of training for occupation by influencing curricula, but this is unlikely. That means that the manpower approach target at the component, educational component of different occupation. When there is technological changes or technological process, then it is enhancing the that component of the system. For example, you can take in the present society, we need when COVID started, at that time we needed the technological part to be integrated in our system. So at that time, the education is designed in such a manner, guidelines are decided in such a manner, and it is supplied to the to generate the manpower. So in this approach, in this type of planning, in this type of technique, what happened, the education or the planning process generally targets and education as a consumer's good. It is a like a other goods, and the consumers will go and buy that good, but makes no provision for the social minimum. Social minimum means the minimum requirement to live in a society. When you will use that thing as a good, the education as a good, then the objective or the other needs, other things like your value system, you can say, the other requirements may not be fulfilled. So that but this approach believes that the value system or the moral value or anything other values, you are saying that education means it will give that as a byproduct of the system. That's why it is not emphasizing on this. That is the main motto of this type of approach. The occupational need of the economy are not the whole of society's need for education. In addition, has to be made for women and girl who are not gainfully employed, and for the amount of education which a country requires to fulfill its cultural, political, and social goals. It is also necessary to assure that educational output will grow faster than demand to the degree required to stimulate growth without creating problems of unemployment. That means it targets at the employment of the manpower, and it will employ the manpower on the basis of the skill they acquired. So its main target is on the manpower. Again, in this system, the educational system and socio-economic environment is another thing, and the full account must be taken of the wastage involved in various educational system, as well as students switching in midstream, students and parents preference, localities, disequilibrium of supply and demand, and adjustment required by technological changes. So this type of educational plan must also provide for employment and continuous adjustment. So it carries on the adjustment process between the educational system and socio-economic environment. As the socio-economic environment, accordingly the education system will run. So for example, you can take when there is requirement of a particular professional people, suppose doctors, then medical profession, the educational system or medical education system will be prioritized, or some planning will be incorporated there to enhance the number of production of doctors, so that the society will get their service. So this is a, it is going on continuous adjustment between the system and the socio-economic environment. So full account must be taken from the wastage involved in various education system. So it also take into account the wastage. Wastage, what is the meaning of wastage here in the education system? Wastage means you are going for the BTech or engineering course, and you are again leaving that force or going for the other job in the banking sector. So this was the not the purpose of that course, that particular course, engineering course, but you are going and serving there in the banking sector. So this may be treated as wastage. And finally, there is the problem that the composition of the development plan leading to the occupational demand must not be determined irrespective of the educational requirement it imposes. The composition of the target, that is the product mix, and of the investment program undertaken to achieve it must depend on part on the relative cost of various type of educational program needed. So it product mix means it determine what should be the product, and accordingly we will determine which part of the education will be emphasized. So some of the professor, one professor was there, Arthur Lewis, in his article Education and Economic Development, dealing with what he calls investment education states. One can calculate the percentage of age cohort who should receive secondary education from the formula. So he gave a formula, so that formula was like this, but this is not very necessary for you. Then how they calculate this: if this formula is to be used to estimate total requirement and to be used widely, we have to add the secondary school places needed to maintain the flow to higher education. So if we are going to calculate about the higher education, the planners who are their educational planners, they also involve all those things in their calculation. So when uh, in the previous sections we have discussed about the varieties of policies and commissions and committees which were framed in the independent India. At that time, what happened, how they planned the education system. So when they wanted that there should be demand for the higher education and we want to produce such type of product in the society, so they planned accordingly. If we want to maintain the higher flow to the higher education, then we need to have the secondary school places, how many places we will add, and so that our flow to the higher education will be maintained. Since this flow has to pass through the secondary level, we have also to make provision for education of women and girls and others who do not work. A further comment on Professor Lewis' formula is that it does not take account of the fact that as national income rises, the proportion of the labor force to the total population normally become less. What is happening now? So according to his formula, this is caused by the raising of the age of entry into the labor force by lowering of the age of retirement and by the reduction of the number of workers marginal to the labor force. Thus, quantitative estimates of educational requirement is based solely on labor force demand, then 10 to 15 years ahead would underestimate a country's overall educational need. So when the educational planners are going to plan for the education of the nation, they are to take these things into account so that they can calculate. Similarly, for example, you can say also now government is calculating that we are going to increase the retirement age. So what will happen? Why it is said like this? So this type of things are coming due to this type of calculation by the educational planner. What is going on in our country? Research is continuously being undertaken on this in this regard, and they are calculating what will happen to the country, how we are going to, what is our population, what are the range of population, which age group people are there, and how we are going to utilize those age group of people. So that's why they are calculating all those things and taking into account all those things for the educational planning process. Next, we will proceed to the 5-year plans in India. What happened to the 5-year plans in India? So, ever since the independence in India, developmental plan for a period of 5 years are being developed by the Planning Commission with the inputs received from the states. All such plans from the very first to the most recent one. So, from the very beginning, it was there. But in 2014, when new government took charge, it is scrapped formulating 5-year plans. Since then, no plans, either annual or 5-year plans are being formulated. The Niti Aayog, that is the National Institution for Transforming India, was established in 2015 by replacing Planning Commission, which is a policy think tank of the Government of India, established with the aim to achieve sustainable development goals with cooperative federalism by fostering the involvement of state governments of India in the economic policy making process using a bottom up approach. The staff of the then Planning Commission and host of institution under it was retained in the newly created Niti Aayog. So this was the recent news from the Niti Aayog, but before that, Planning Commission was there and who was planning the 5-year plan. This is generally known as 5-year plan. So focus area of different 5-year plan from when it was started, what was the focus area when a 5-year plan was developed. At that time, it was emphasizing or deciding the objective on which objective we are going to develop our focus area. So when we'll go to the first 5-year plan, the first 5-year plan was in 1951 to 56. For this 5 year we had a plan at that time, and its main focus area were agricultural development. Similarly, in second, the focus area was developing the public sector and rapid industrialization. In third, agriculture and improvement in the production of wheat. In fourth, developing the agricultural sector to support small and medium farms. Fifth, intensifying new technologies, systematically evaluating the country's groundwater resources, increasing food grain yield by 3% per year during the plan period. Similarly, sixth and seventh have this type of focus like rapid industrialization, increased employment, poverty reduction, and technological self-reliance. Okay, excuse me. I would like to take just 1 minute break. Okay, thank you. Now we'll start. So now we will look to the 5-year plan and education. How it is, what was the emphasis regarding education only. So the first 5-year plan from 1951 to 1956, and the emphasis area was the basic importance of education in the planned development of the nation. The educational program should help to train the people to place responsibilities before rights and to keep the self regarding outlook and the force of acquisitive instinct within legitimate bounds. On building up of a new system more suited to national needs and working out of the relationship of various systems. So these were the first 5-year plan. The goal or emphasis were like this. And in the second, when come to 1956 to 1961, the plan stressed on improvement of standards of college and university education. And in the third 5-year plan, 1961 to 66, it recognized the emphasis on It recognized education as the most important single factor in achieving rapid economic development and technological progress, and in creating a social order founded on the values of freedom, social justice, and equal opportunity. It also emphasized that programs of education lie at the base of the effort to forge the bonds of common citizenship, to harness the energies of people, and to develop the natural and human resources of every part of the country. So you can also here compare the gradually how when we are proceeding from the independent India, starting of independence, that is 1951 and 66, we are gradually planning, we are gradually when completion of the 1 5 year plan, we are moving towards the next. The next is your 4th 5 year plan. Then 4th 5 year plan is from 1969 to 1974. So its emphasis was on improving teacher education standards, establishing sports colleges in universities, and establishing international culture center in selected universities. And in fifth, when we proceed to 5th 5 year plan 1974 to 1979, it included educational development efforts. The plan focused on agriculture, poverty elevation, and employment generation. And in 6th 5 year plan 1980 to 85, the problem of non-viable institutions with low enrollment and inadequate provision of facilities, as well as proliferation of such institutions offering general academic courses which would need to be tackled with determination. So when as we talked in the educational planning process, so when the planning process is there, we are in a continuous process of planning. And when we are planning for a 5 year prospective plan, at that time we will identify, sort out the problems, what is there, what is the lacuna in the 5 year plan. Then in the next step we are going to modify it or choose that area to be focused. Similarly, when institutions are set up according to the previous 5 year plans, the setup work is over. After that, they found in 80 to 85 plan that the problem of non-viable institution which need to be tackled with determination. And then we proceed to in 7th 5 year plan, that is 1985 to 90. And this plan stressed on removal of obsolescence and modernization of technical education, as well as fogging of beneficial linkage with industry aid development agency. So here they wanted to remove all the old and you can say obsolescence institutions, and the technical education was emphasized. And in 8th plan 1992 to 97, the emphasis area was integrated approach to higher education, excellence in higher education. So higher education was emphasized in recent years from 92 to 97. Expansion of education in an equitable and cost effective manner, in the process making the higher education system financially self supportive. Then in 9th 5 year plan 97 to 2002, emphasis was given on the institutional consolidation and growth, creation of independent college and department, conferring autonomous status to UGC on selected college. Then in 10th 5 year plan 2002 to 2007, increasing access and quality, adoption of state specific curriculum modification, vocationalization, networking on the use of information technology, distance education, convergence of formal, non-formal, distant and IT education institution. So in 10th plan, actually we are moving towards the modernization. That's why we are now we have made the minimum quality, then we are focusing on the advanced qualities, like we need access and quality and specific curriculum modification, vocationalization, etc. So then the 11th 5-year plan 2007 to 2012 focused on increasing higher education enrollment for students aged 18 to 23 age group student. So higher education enrollment is focused. The plan also prioritized IT education institutions, formal and non-formal education and distance education. And 12 5-year plan was from 2012 to 17, but in the meantime, after 2015 it was stopped and due to formation of the Niti Aayog. But the focus was on the in the 12th plan was eliminating gender and social gaps in education, ensuring secondary education for all by 2017, eliminating gender and social gaps in school enrollment, and these plans were taken over by the Niti Aayog after 2015. So these were the 5-year plans which are in India, and how they focused on different aspect and developed, and some out of these things also some are not achieved, but they are working on it in the NEP 2020 also. So what is the objective of planning for higher education? So we will go to the directly to the higher education, as we were discussing all these things in the context of higher education. So objectives of the 10th plan on development of higher education, what were the objective? One is your general objective and another one is your specific objective. So the general objective was to achieve a profound transformation of higher education in order that it becomes an effective promoter of sustainable human development, and at the same time improve the relevance with closer link with world of work and achieve quality in its teaching, research and business and community extension function, including lifelong learning. So these are the general objectives. And if you are very closer to the NEP 2020 or you have gone through the NEP 2020, you can find the reflection of these objectives in the NEP 2020. All these things are there in the NEP 2020, as we are focusing on the sustainable human development. Actually, this was the objective of 10th plan, what we are discussing. So, in 10th plan, these things are there, but after 12th plan also, we are struggling to achieve these objectives in the present context. Then some of the specific objectives of 10th plan were to contribute to the transformation and improvement of methodology and practices related to the relevance of higher education, quality, evaluation and accreditation, research and development, outreach activities in business and community, and lifelong learning. The knowledge and use of the new information and communication technologies, manage, management and financing, export of higher education, and reorientation of international cooperation. So these were the specific objectives as per the 10th 5-year plan. So what is the agenda for higher education in 21st century as in the 10th plan? It was quoted from there. The scope and demand for higher education is increasing, and the new paradigm in higher education involves creation of intellects means that promotion of global standards in institutions of higher education, of world standard and also training of skilled human power at a mass level without compromising on quality. The quality term should be underlined here, and that means making quality as an integral part of working institution of higher education. So from this agenda we can interpret that the higher education should keep the scope to enhance the quality, and quality should never be compromised according to the agenda. Then what about technical and management education? This is also a part of higher education. So the key issues in technical and management education during the 10th plan would be a continuing focus on increasing intake, quality of education, including research and technology. Other issues include faculty development, optimal utilization of resources through networking, development of information technology education, modernization of the curriculum, international benchmarking, developing capacity in new and emerging technology areas, strategic planning and management of the technical education system, and developing informal sector. So these were decided for the technical and management education part of higher education. In order to upgrade the quality of technical education, several new institutions have been proposed in the 10th plan. To make the system flexible and to enable the students to learn at their own time and space, distance and web based learning was planned in various engineering and management institutions. Education technology centers are being established at selected institutions. These centers are responsible for preparation of course material and multimedia software to put them online. So we are talking about the 10th plan. That means it is pre-COVID time. So at that time, the distance education and ICT based education, whatever going on, that was planned and also strengthened in those institutions. But after COVID, post COVID era, it was um, done automatically for all sectors. Then medical education. Over the plans, the emphasis in medical education had shifted from expansion of facilities to the improvement of the system of education. So, as stated in the sixth 5 year plan, the policy of the government is not to increase the number of medical colleges or their intake capacity. The emphasis would be on bringing about qualitative improvement in medical education and training. So quality was everywhere emphasized in the plans. This position was reiterated in the seventh plan, which, besides laying emphasis on improving the quality of training in medical education, it also lays stress on making it need based and community centered. The 10th plan noted that pharmaceutical institution would be supported for starting advanced level course R&D and continuing education program. Then if we will proceed to the progress of higher education, here first we will discuss about the quantitative aspects of higher education. So how the progress occurred in the quantity area, if you look into the table, then we can compare what happened to the quantity part. See the quantity part in the year 1950-51 to 1999 2000. uh, the data is up to 2000 here. So the teachers number in lakhs 17.20, but in the starting see the number is 1.27 lakhs. Similarly the student ratio check 15 to 282.1. Now it has been increased tremendously, that this number is greatly enhanced, and all these numbers, the college number of college is also greatly enhanced. So see the this quantity is how quantitatively we have grown. Similarly, the expenditure in 5-year plan, what was the expenditure status in the first to fifth? I have recorded here up to fifth, but after that it has also grown. Up to 10th 5-year plan, it is about 24,908 24 lakhs. Now it is the 91,000, that is 24 lakh up to the completion of 10th. So, what is the expenditure? First of all, in the first 5-year plan, we have that type of expenditure, total expenditure 15,300 lakhs only in the first 5-year plan. But up to the end of 10th plan, we have more than 24 lakh, more than 24 lakh expenditure on education. Then growth of higher education institutions, students and teachers. So year wise also, this is up to 2000, 2000 and 2001. You can see the number of colleges, number of university, then how many students were there, how many teachers were there. So student number is gradually increasing. Day by day it is increasing. Teachers number is also increasing in number. It is okay. It is increasing. So we can say that, interpret from the data given, we can say that quantitatively we have grown to a greater extent in every aspect, starting from the number of student enrolled, number of teacher appointed, as well as the amount of expenditure also we have improved. But when come to the qualitative improvement part, in the first plan, some suggestions were made like raising the age limit. In the first 5-year plan, some suggestions were made like raising the age limit for admissions to universities, the encouragement of an atmosphere of discussion and free thinking in the universities, increasing the number of working days to at least 180, and so on. So this was the step taken in the first plan. Here, when you are coming to the qualitative improvement aspect, at that time you have to compare all those situations. What was there in the first 5-year plan, and how we are um, moving towards the 10th, 11th, 12th plan. Then after that, there is no 5-year plan. There is another plan. So the number of, it was the decision that we will focus on this area. So after a number of other measures were also undertaken during the subsequent plans. For example, it has been suggested that the affiliated colleges which have been responsible for the bulk of university enrollments should be given financial assistance for their general improvement. It has also been accepted that a few colleges selected on the basis of their achievement, existing facilities, and potentialities would be provided assistance for their fuller development. So, promising university departments were also developed as centers of advanced studies. The scheme is intended to encourage the pursuit of excellence and teamwork in study and research, and to accelerate the realization of international standards in specific fields. So, this is here what is the qualitative aspect. To enhance the quality, these steps were taken by the planning commissions, educational planners. They have told that we will do all these works to enhance the research and to encourage the excellence. So they need excellence. So that is your quality part. And to solve the issue of quality improvement, some more steps were taken in 5-year plan. And those steps were the modernization of syllabi. Syllabus will be modernized. Then increased research, networking of universities and departments. They will network the universities and departments so that they can work collaboratively. Increased allocation of funds. Initiatives were taken to adapt modern methods of teaching and learning, developing learner friendly teaching materials, change in evaluation method, establishing internal quality assurance cells to go through the assessment and accreditation process. So, all the 5-year plans stressed on these overall issues to improve the quality of teaching and research. So, these are the areas on which they focused. And internal quality assurance cells to go through the assessment and accreditation process of all higher education institution. When it was established, it was stressed or emphasized in all 5-year plans, but now you can see its reflection. Now internal quality assurance cells were activated, and it is compulsory for all higher education institution to go for an assessment and accreditation process. In the area of distance education, what happened there? When in distance education came to existence, to make it accessible to all, distance education concept arose to make accessible and equity, to maintain equity. So, in the area of distance education, the overall progress with regard to expansion and diversification of activities is very important at that time. Since the inception of the planning era, efforts have also been made to take advantage of educational technologies so as not only to improve access and equity in provision of educational services but to enhance the quality of education. This was the main motto of development of distance education. The development of open and distance education system, which cater for nearly one-fifth of the total students in higher education, has been very significant in augmenting opportunities for learning, especially for the deprived groups. Who are the deprived groups? The deprived groups were the rural communities and women, and for those working population who wish to pursue higher studies. So now see the difference or the development in the distance education program. Previously, it was actually designed, developed to provide access and equity, especially to rural communities and women and working people. But now the students who are there in the system, they are also preferring to pursue the pursue the degree through the distance education. So the enrollment, if you will look to the quantitative data, quantitative part of the distance education program, then you can see the enrollment with regard to open universities and centers of distance education has increased. The distance education institution offer all types and level of programs in general higher education and professional, technical, also vocational disciplines. And this, if you note down this point is also emphasized in the NEP 2020, and accordingly all the portals are being activated, like your SOEM portal, the IGNO, the distance education program of states. All these are things are activated. The use of information and communication technology and the support of conventional system have provided necessary impetus for growth of distance education. And the growing convergence between the open learning system and the conventional system with respect to sharing of resource and This type of distance education help in revolutionizing the development of higher education. So this is from the table. You can interpret from the quantitative data. See, the indicators are the enrollment of which female. Female Open University, this is the number 6,32,000, and correspondence course, this is the enrollment, and total enrollment this, teachers academics, program on offer, course on offer, number of study center. So everything, see the number is now increasing. Then, before moving to the problem of university development, we will discuss something. We will tell something about the postgraduate education and research. After distance education, what is the difference that come to the postgraduate education and research? So, in the postgraduate, if the postgraduate course is occupying a central position in the university system, and different schemes has also been launched in the post graduation system for the postgraduate course and research. The selected university departments have been developed as center of excellence. Interdisciplinary research facilities have been given special encouragement, and more departments are proposed to be brought within the fold of special assistance program initiated by the UGC in order to allow certain promising department in the university to operate their postgraduate program. Specifically, the UGC has been providing the development grants to improve the infrastructure and basic facilities in the university so as to achieve at least the threshold level and to promote excellence in education. And special grants are also being provided to the institution in the backward regions and for replacement of outdated and old equipments and modernization of facilities. And support is also provided for interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research studies. And it has also given top priority to strengthening the infrastructure of existing postgraduate department. And this is the reflection from the very beginning commission you can find there. So it also involves the provision of adequate academic as well as technical and other support staff, removal of obsolescence, modernization of laboratories, and strengthening of workshop, enrichment of library, and other facilities are being enhanced by the grant of the UGC. And different schemes has also been introduced to promote the research activities and the postgraduate departments in the system. Then we will move to the problems of university development. Then the development of higher education, when given priority throughout the world, since the society is increasingly becoming knowledge based. The progress of higher education is essential to create and advance knowledge and to educate and train responsible, enlightened citizens and qualified specialists to ensure overall progress of the society. So, a renewal of higher education is critical to face the challenges of 21st century. The challenges which are mainly arising from global competitiveness and knowledge intensive socio-economic activities. Some of the incongruities which are responsible for dysfunctional nature of the system are as follows. What are those incongruities? These incongruities are your unawaited expansion. So, what is that? The expansion of facilities for higher education, training, and research should be commensurate with the requirement for ensuring high quality of relevant programs and for meeting of the manpower needs of different sectors of the society and economy. The development in this regard are, however, lopsided. The students' enrollment at the higher education stage, this is the quantitative thing from which we can say that what is unawaited expansion. So, how expansion is creating problem for the higher education system. The student enrollment at the higher education stage has gone up considerably since the beginning of the plans from a mere 2 lakhs in 1951, and the student enrollment stands at about 88 lakhs in 2002. So see the rise in the number of students. So how it happened? So it is observed that there is a net addition of about 4 lakh students every year. A large number of students, about 20 lakhs, join non-formal, or you can say non-formal means here open and distance education stream for post-secondary education of all types and level. This expansion without a proportionate increase in the physical and academic facilities has led to a deterioration in the quality of higher education. So you can analyze why the what are the problems, why the quality of the higher education is deteriorating. This fact has been recognized and articulated in the plans and in various other bodies. Even in the past plan, it was pointed out that the pressure for expanding college education without making adequate provision for ensuring the quality of teaching has been widespread and persisting. This conflict between the odds for expansion and the need for quality has rendered more complex and task of reorganization of university education. So there was a pressure, from it we can interpret that there was a pressure of expanding the college education. Similar a thing is also happening nowadays also. You can see the university, how the universities are increasing in number. Similar was the case at that time, that is called as unawaited expansion, and it created, how it created problem in the system of higher education. The University Grant Commission also felt concerned about explosion in numbers at the higher education stage. The Commission, however, attempted to explain the causation of this phenomenon. Thus, how it defined in the context of growth of higher education in India, three important facts need to be emphasized. The first important step was important fact was that enrollment at the level of higher education as a proportion of relevant age cohort is hardly adequate in spite of the unprecedented growth that has taken place. And so proportion of the relevant age cohort is hardly adequate. That means the age cohort which was decided, that is not adequate in the higher education system. In spite of the fact that there is a need to regulate expansion in view of limitation of resources. First we have to look into the resources, then we will think of the expansion. Without resource, some there were some colleges, or you can say that the colleges grow like the mushrooms everywhere. So that is inadequate. Without having facilities, without having the limitation of resources, they were not considering the limitation of resources, but they um, open the higher education institution. So there was no regulation. So there is a need to regulate expansion. So it is not easy to deny expansion altogether. The weaker section of the society have looked upon higher education as the only means of their vertical, social, and economic mobility and to deny them access to higher education would be against all canons of social justice and equity. The third one was it would not be proper to determine the demand for education from the point of view of labor market alone. So it is also a problem. Third problem, without due consideration to the social, cultural, and humanistic aspect of education, if you are we will think that we are supplying the labor to the market, then it will be a problem. So without consideration of social, cultural, humanistic aspect, we have to see the humanistic concept aspect also. Then second problem is the major problem. One is your unabated expansion, and second one is your uneven growth. What is your uneven growth? Uneven growth, the social demand and political considerations largely influence the decision making establishment of institution under both public and private sectors. About three-fourths of the institutions were located in urban areas whose population share is about 30%. These dimensions indicate unevenness in expansion of facilities for higher education. So, unevenness means there is also a quantitative data to indicate the unevenness of higher education institution by the state. If you start from the Andhra Pradesh and go to up to Pondicherry, then you can see the how many are the university, how many universities are there, and how unevenly they have grown. In Maharashtra, you can find 19 universities. In Andhra Pradesh, you can find 18. But in Arunachal Pradesh, you can find one. In Assam, you can find five. Similarly, in Goa also you can find one university. In Meghalaya, one university. Mizoram, one university. Tripura, one university. And similarly, Pondicherry, one university. Daman and Diu, zero university. This was a older data actually, 2001 2 data. But similarly, also you can compare the recent data that how unevenly the system is the institutions are distributed unevenly, so that in some area there are more universities and in some area there are less universities. So in generally urban area there are more university, and the disadvantage area there is less university. So this is the uneven growth. When uneven growth, so three-fourth of the institution are located in urban area whose population share is about 30%. So only 30% is getting that benefit of higher education. So this dimension indicate unevenness in expansion of facilities for higher education and training. The next problem is your enrollment ratio. So the share of student in higher education to the total age specific population, that is your age specific means higher education from 18 to 23 year, is an important indicator of the extent to which people in a state have access to higher education. The overall higher education enrollment ratio for India is 7%, which is of course hides considerable difference between the states. It is overall 7%, but somewhere it is 0, somewhere it may be 1 or 2 or 3 or like this. So which are at different level of educational development. The literacy rates for states differ. Similarly, participation rate of secondary and higher education level also vary for different regions, attributable to both economic and educational factors. So, enrollment ratio is also affected by economic status and gender, which also create a problem for the higher education. The next is your institutional diversities. So the enrollment at the higher education stage varies substantially in universities, which is attributable to both institutional capacity, that means infrastructure, and the range of higher education program offered by the institution. Such variations are even more pronounced when data are examined for different types of universities. So there are different types of universities means there are some are unitary universities and some are affiliating universities. The affiliating universities enroll a large number of students, whereas the unitary universities have much fewer students. Similarly, the affiliated university have different number of colleges affiliated to it, and the university-wise, program-wise enrollment are available in the publication unis. That characteristic of university as affiliated and unitary causes variation in enrollment. So institutional diversity also impact the enrollment process. The next one is your unplanned establishment of colleges. The colleges are established in a very unplanned way. The problem of higher education has but is a unplanned growth of the college or institution catering to arts, science, and commerce courses. So a particular mention should be described here that the country's nearly 5,500 affiliated colleges, in which the vast majority of our university level students having been created more for political and regional considerations rather than to meet higher educational needs of the respective states. So many of the institutions are extremely small in size, and they also lack the minimum facilities needed to develop a viable instructional program and pose a constant threat to the quality and standard of higher education. So this thing also need to be quoted, that viable institutions are now also present, and this is creating a constant threat to the quality and standard of higher education. But unfortunately our UGC has no say in the establishment of new colleges or in their affiliation to a university. So this is very unfortunate condition. The state which seem to be a disadvantageous position with regard to the number of universities or enrollment are sufferers because they have arts and commerce college in very large number, because the arts and commerce college are the cheapest way to satisfy the thirst for higher education. So, out of the total 13,150 colleges in 2001 to two-thirds cater to general higher education in the area of arts, science, and commerce. And due to deficiency in infrastructure, over 50 of the colleges are termed as non-viable colleges. That means they have less than 500 students. A large number of self-financing institutions have been established after obtaining administrative approval from the AICT and offer technical programs. Many such institutions do not have adequate facilities to ensure quality of education. So, when we are talking about the problems of higher education and how the problems are hampering the quality of higher education, then we have to keep in mind all these things, that these are the problems of higher education. Then we will talk about some quality aspect. Some committee and commissions on this, what they told the UGC program, actually the review committee on UGC program 1981 referred to the quality of higher education in these words are quoted from the UGC. The picture that emerges from the assessment made by committee is one of lights and shades of achievement as well as failures. The general impression is that the best students are as good as ever, if not better, and the contents of courses are generally of a high level. It is also a fact that outstanding work is being done by some of the university department, and a number of teachers have been receiving recognition from well known centers of learning. On the other hand, instruction in some universities has not kept pace with modern developments. There is a resistance to change and innovation on the part of teachers, and an atmosphere of growing violence and intimidation on the part of students, teachers, and in some cases, even employees. There is also a lack of trust between the students and teachers. It is not surprising that, under the present conditions, the potentialities of the students are not fully utilized and developed by our universities and colleges. The prevailing situation is also considered unsatisfactory from the point of view of the growing expectations, the demand on the system being far greater as compared to the inputs and availability of the resources. So, this is actually quoted by UGC program in 1981, but if I will look into the statement, then I can feel that this is the problem of today now, today also. But steps are being taken to overcome this, and gradually we can overcome the that thing, and we will surely proceed towards the quality of improve the quality of higher education. And similarly, the other higher education institutions, if we will consider the quality of medical education, then the medical education, for medical education, a scheme of reorientation of medical education was introduced with certain objectives, and those objectives are introducing community bias in the training of undergraduate medical students with emphasis on preventive and promotive services, reorientation of the role of medical colleges, healthcare system, all reorientation of faculty members, and health oriented training, community based training, development of effective referral linkage. So all these things are emphasized in the for medical education. Similarly, in technical education also these things prevail. They have a objective to remove all those barriers, and all the 5 year plans have therefore stressed on the need for quality improvement, mainly through various schemes of UGC. In the 10th 5 year plan, it has been asserted as under. So, this is quoted like this: 10th, from the 10th 5 year plan, the UGC is fully aware of the need for doing the things in quality way. UGC is fully aware, but the globalization of education has forced comparison between various educational institutions. The institutions will have to adapt to modern method of teaching and learning, develop learner-friendly teaching material, change their evaluation methods, and strive for excellence to sustain themselves in this competitive world. They will have to retrain their teachers and equip them with skills that will enhance the quality of teaching and research. Quality and excellence do not happen accidentally. Organized and focused efforts are needed to achieve them, and that is what UGC intends to do in this plan. That means 10th 5 year plan, what UGC intends to do, but what happened in the field. So, in accordance with this stipulation, a number of initiatives have been taken to strengthen the infrastructure and to modernize the teaching and learning process. So, it has also been asserted that to ensure quality of education, it is necessary to make our accreditation process more transparent, time bound, and free from regime of control. So, this is now being implemented. The accreditation process is mandatory now. So the accreditation of the institutions should make public the benchmark as well as other normative standard which are absolute minimum requirement for quality assurance. So while we are going to assure the quality of the institution, then we have to take the feedback or involve the stakeholders. We have to take the feedback from the stakeholders also, that is being done through the NAC. So the plans have not only diagnosed the problem that hampers the quality of distance education, but also envisages various scheme for quality assurance which are being implemented through the UGC. So UGC is now taking all these things into account and trying to enhance the quality. So to ensure quality, it is necessary to make our accreditation process more transparent, time bound, and free from regime of control. Then next is our escalating unemployment. So it has also been noted that due to mismatch in the education and job, the incidence of unemployment among the university educated personnel has been on the increase. So according to an assessment made by Planning Commission, a very important feature of unemployment problem is that the rate of unemployment is typically much higher among the educated people than among those with lower level of education. So it is a problem with the educated people, and this is the unemployment rate among the educated youth starting from up to 2000. The data is given. So into 1983, this is the combined ratio 24.4% unemployment, but up to 2000 it is 23.7. That means it is almost same. So this is the percentage what it shows from that, what the quantitative data shows. Okay. So these are all about the problems of higher education, and um, the 5-year plans and the problems of higher education. And this is all about of today's class.